Welcome back to Chow Time Pods. Your host, Red. We have videos today from AllAsianDilemmas.
The moment a woman comes near, he starts beating her up. This is Japanese men's method for dealing with feminism.
I mean, it's a little extreme, but I understand.
Japanese feminism has already evolved from squabbling online to real-life Mortal Kombat offline. Faced with Japan's extreme feminism, Japanese men, to keep up with the new version, created the samurai duel. Put simply, there are many Japanese feminists who, for no reason at all, slander Japanese men by claiming the men molested them.
So false accusations, it's a thing. Not just in the US or in the West. A lot of Western Asian countries, which would only be like 3 I can think of, would be like China, Japan, and South Korea. All the other ones are a little bit more not so Western yet. But Japan, definitely pretty Western.
So whenever a woman suddenly comes near, the man launches into a duel with her and beats her up. Because indecent assault means 3 years in prison, while a fight only means 15 days detention.
Again, like a little extreme, but 15 days in the can is much better than 3 years.
Between 3 years and 15 days. The Japanese know full well which to choose. So
math is mathin'. It makes total sense.
Why did Japanese feminism reach this point? And how did men respond? Many people in the West have heard of Japan's gender opposition and the outcome in which men, as a whole, lay flat, gave up.
Like, I wonder how extreme this truly is, because everything we watch and cover, we always want to take it with a grain of salt. Right? You know, obviously, there's some truths to a lot of these things, but not everything is full truths out there. But I can see this, like, if that is the case, dating a woman and then suddenly a woman wants to like accuse you of things or saying you did something, you just start beating her up and now it's just an assault charge. Which is weird, but mathematically makes sense.
In fact, these very same scenes, endless gender wars online, anti-marriage sentiment, mutual hatred between men and women, mass attacks on feminists and feminists striking back are today beginning to repeat themselves in the debates of the United States and Europe. But do you know the socioeconomic reasons behind it? Japan's gender opposition must first be told starting from the Showa era, 70 years ago. Japan belongs to the East Asian cultural sphere. Before the end of World War II, Japanese women held a lowly position. After marriage, they were not allowed to...
I mean, it makes sense they got westernized. They literally got nuked twice by us. And we kind of went back over there and said, my bad, we nuked you guys. Let me help you guys rebuild and stuff, you know? And they became very westernized because of that. I mean, can you imagine going to some place and just bombing them and like, hey, we're here to rebuild for you.
To work. And traditional Japanese culture already taught women to obey their husbands. It was only after the 1950s that the position of Japanese women began to improve somewhat. With US support for Japan after the Korean War, the Japanese economy began developing again. Society was short of labor. The idea of social equality also began to develop. Educational opportunities for women began to increase. Many famous private universities began admitting female students, and companies began offering jobs to women. Large numbers of women were no longer content to be housewives and entered the workforce. Only with an independent economy.
It's just funny though, like, being a housewife, to me, as a woman, would be the ultimate end-all, be-all. No? Like, to be able to take care of your kids, have your husband dote on you, take care of you, take care of your house, get it decorated any way you want. I don't care for this stuff, but if I was a woman, I think I'd care for this stuff, right?
Does one gain a voice? Large numbers of Japanese women ceased to be appendages of Japanese men, and from this moment, feminism began to emerge. By the 1980s, the Japanese economy began surging, to the point of boasting of buying America. In this golden age of Japan, Japanese women's wealth also began to grow explosively, and their purchasing power leapt forward. According to figures from a certain Japanese fashion magazine, independent women in Tokyo spent about 500,000 to 700,000 yen a month.
Shit, how much is that?
Taking a taxi while paying with 10,000 yen bills was just daily routine, and eating gold leaf sushi was also very common, as women's purchasing power...
Google. The things that rich people think of sometimes. Is like, oh, let me just add a little gold leaf to this little sushi thing and charge you an extra $3,000 or something. You know,
Rose,
like, fuck.
women-oriented sectors, women's clothing, cosmetics, luxury goods, beauty salons, and so on also entered their golden age. Beyond the economic plane, more and more Japanese women began making a mark in politics. The bills and proposals put forward in the name of women's rights also multiplied. At the time, female legislators had a stable and sizable popular base and were courted from all sides. The gender equality movement was also the inevitable trend of the era. In this environment, the women's rights law duly
I
emerged.
mean, this was also very much going on in the United States too. So us and Japan were very coinciding with this feminism movement.
Including equal pay for equal work and a ban on employers, companies, and government bodies discriminating against women. Marriage law expanded women's rights.
You know, it's funny because we're allowed to put up signs that says we refuse service to anyone, right? But I can't refuse service to them because I don't like their gender or I don't like their race. But you're allowed to refuse service for any reason, though. I've always been confused by that sign and how the US works with that. I always had the sign and always used the shit out of it and pointed the shit out of it. I just never really realized, oh shit. Like, what if I did use that sign because I was a racist or something? Would that be like, how would that work?
Before the 1980s, the crime of rape in Japan existed only in name because Japanese culture taught women to endure and swallow. Most assaulted Japanese women
Literally.
were forced to swallow their suffering in silence.
Which is obviously bad, right? We don't want women being raped left and right and just having to deal with it, and there's no repercussions to men in this field of horribleness. Like, I think most men can understand, yeah, we don't want that happening. Plus, if we have daughters, wives, and sisters.
And this situation began to improve as the times moved on.
Which
In the
you
face
should.
of sexual harassment, more and more Japanese women stood up, making the criminal Japanese men receive their due punishment. Up to this point, the Japanese feminist movement was developing well. Japanese women obtained the rights due to them and the courage to say no to oppression and
And that's the thing, like Me Too and all of this, right? Because there's sympathy behind it, right? Like, we can understand, we can feel sorry for women that are getting it taken advantage of in the workplace, you know, to give sexual favors and things like that. We understand that. We feel sorry for that. But women use that victim narrative that we feel sorry for them to such a degree to just accuse and abuse.
injustice. Japan became a representative of developed nations not only in economy but also in culture and thought.
Yeah, fucking anime is dominating everywhere. Everybody watches anime nowadays. Anime movies are on movie theaters in the US.
But just as the Japanese feminist movement was gradually reaching its peak, things began gradually heading in an extreme direction. First, capital began to intervene. Capital, which had already reaped plenty of profit from the development of Japanese women's consumption, wanted to push further, so the marketing advertising of all sorts of consumer products began actively tying itself to feminist ideology. The most typical
I'm thinking it means capitalism.
marketing case is the extension of the meaning of diamond rings and jewelry. Once, the diamond
Fucking De Beers, man. And freaking K Jeweler or whatever, diamond is forever. You fucking fucks.
ring was bound to marriage. As the saying goes, a diamond is forever. But under the packaging of Japanese distributors, the diamond ring came to represent not only marriage, but also the urban woman's individualism and all manner of broad categories. The ring doesn't need a man to buy it for you, you can buy a ring for yourself. Likewise, all sorts of expensive luxury goods were packaged as indispensable tools for a woman to please herself. The idea that loving yourself means consuming, you are what you wear.
Yeah, and women just ate that shit up. And they love consuming. Most women are just glorified consumers.
The bag you carry began to go viral among Japanese women, which also made today's Japan a famous major nation of secondhand luxury goods. Finally,
Yeah, I know that, like, luxury watches in Japan, you can get some very nice luxury used watches in Japan without major markups because they don't mark them up that well, that high in Japan. So if you guys really were like wanting a nice luxury watch, go visit Japan, go check out some culture, some anime stuff. and get a watch over there. But you can't buy a lot. They don't let you buy like mass. They only let you buy one or two because they obviously know you don't want you to go resell them and stuff.
Finally, capital even directly tied the material to love. Treating a woman to a meal had to be at an upscale restaurant of more than 50,000 yen, otherwise the cherry blossom lady won't give you the time of day. Not only must you go to a luxury hotel, you also had to give expensive gifts. I'm an independent—
Wait, just the bang, and we had to go to a luxury hotel? We can't go to the normal shady motels?
An excellent Japanese woman of the new era. If you want to court me, of course you have to show sincerity. Not being willing to spend money on me means you don't like me.
Why is sincerity always tied to money when women?
Spending a lot is what counts as truly loving me. From this was even born a special term for the phenomenon: romance capitalism. At the time, Japanese trends spread mainly through print
Romance capitalism. Wouldn't that be just gold digging? Just with a nicer term?
media like fashion magazines. The magazines, upon noticing the rising trend of Japanese feminism, also actively began cooperating with capital, pouring more hedonistic values onto women. These consumption trends were labeled happy woman and happy love, which happened to suit the
Yeah, that's the happy wife, happy life thing. Happy woman, happy love. But very similar, right? Not too far off from each other.
taste of the new Japanese women. As Japanese women's voice in the arena of public opinion grew, overcorrecting measures also began to appear. For example, extending the duration of marriage leave and maternity leave, granting women more benefits, having companies give female employees more material benefits on holidays like Valentine's Day and Christmas and so on.
Wait, what? Women get special gifts for Valentine's Day from work?
But none of this was the most frightening. The most frightening thing is that, in the legal realm, Japanese judges generally began leaning toward women, especially after the crimes of rape and indecent assault returned to the Japanese public's field of view.
I mean, it makes sense. Like I said, men have sympathy too, right? And when you see mass women just getting wronged in that way, yeah, you kind of want to punish the bad guys.
Japanese women began ever more broadly expanding their power to define what counted as harassment. As long as a man had the slightest physical contact with a woman, it was rape or indecent assault. On the subway, as long as a man touched a woman for any reason, he'd be cursed as a chikan, trained pervert. A supervisor sending emails to a female subordinate was workplace sexual harassment. Even an office colleague. You looked at me, and I can interpret that as you harboring ill intent toward me. I'm a woman. Would I, after all, joke around with my own reputation? Without anyone noticing, Japanese feminism had already begun to degenerate onto the crooked path of cursing men in every which way, treating all men as would-be rapists. Or rather, compared with the previous traditional—
I mean, that's the goal, right? It's to pit us against each other. And it's to evilize men and to make men the main enemy.
egalitarian feminism. This voice that directly and loudly curses men is easier to spread and easier for everyone to understand. Whoever has the more extreme slogan can have more believers, and cases of expanded punishment and even slander also began to become routine in public opinion. In 1991, on a Tokyo train, a man, during the morning rush hour, accidentally touched a woman's shoulder and arm and was accused by her of sexual harassment. The man refused to settle, and the woman insisted on prosecuting. Although in the end, the sexual harassment charge was judged unfounded for a lack of evidence. After several days of litigation, the man still lost his job.
Yep. Same shit that happens in the US. Like, again, a lot of our Asian counterparts are not that far off from us.
At the same time, he began receiving threatening letters daily at his door, and was ultimately forced to leave Tokyo. Also in 1991, a female employee reported that a male supervisor sent her more than 5 emails a day. Although the content was all work-related, the society of the time still considered it workplace sexual harassment, which ultimately forced the supervisor to resign and led to his replacement by a female supervisor.
It's like, I can't even email my fucking employees multiple times a day.
There were many similar cases, and this is also why the invention of the women-only train car did not first appear in conservative, traditional countries like those in the Middle East, but first in Japan, a developed capitalist country. The bureaucratic Japanese government at the time did not want to solve the complex social problems behind this. It merely wanted, in a purely physical way, to isolate the problem. We physically isolated it all. Now, surely you won't have any problems, right? Even so, at the time, men did generally support the establishment of these cars, because all it took was being accused by a woman of being a train pervert.
It's like, yeah, stay over there so you don't accuse us.
For the conviction rate to be 99%.
Damn!
And once convicted, losing one's job and even committing suicide was commonplace. For this reason, at the time there even existed a large...
It's like men's lives are literally in their hands, right? Like when you hear the suicide rate, and you're just like, 99% conviction? Yeah, I can see a lot of men offing themselves because they got accused of these horrible things and lost everything.
Large number of scammers who made a profession of it, extorting large sums in settlement money. Under the stimulus of the bubble economy and complex public opinion, extreme Japanese feminism developed wildly, to the point of already beginning to guide public opinion and thought. Among these cases, the 1992 Four Boyfriends of the Heisei Woman is a typical example. This article described in the first person the lovely daily life of Tokyo women, and in it described the four boyfriends that the urban Japanese woman possessed. The so-called four boyfriends in fact refer to four types of men: the driver, the meal ticket, the ATM, and the true love.
Jeez.
These four types of men each perform their function, satisfying women's needs at every level. The driver is the man of ordinary income and ordinary looks, used to run errands and handle various chores. The meal ticket is the man of stronger economic strength, in charge of paying the bill when going to various upscale venues. The ATM is the boy in charge of giving surprise gifts on specific holidays. And the true love is in charge of romance. He can be poor, but he must be handsome.
Yeah,
That's right, this is the Japanese woman.
So the Chad Roan of the world?
Spiritual home. What this article wanted to convey is that having money, charm, time, and ideas could hardly all appear in a single man at once. And so the Japanese woman should find four boyfriends at the same time to fully satisfy her own needs and enjoy happiness to the maximum. At the time, many young Japanese women newly entering society were brainwashed by such values.
Makes sense.
They imitated the protagonist of the article, dating multiple men at once and becoming sea queens, women with many partners.
So pretty much, what is that, a Sex in the City type story article, pretty much? Like, oh, a modern woman being able to just date around and pick different men and doing her own thing.
Thus, the development of Japanese feminism went from initially reasonable demands.
Man, when you see how it developed in Japan and you saw how it developed here, and you're just like, man, they got us. They got us.
Gradually to the extreme and the pathological. If Japan's golden age could last forever, this beautiful dream might still hold up. But the collapse of the Japanese economy was already at the door. Behind this magical social phenomenon of Japan, the essence is still economic and social change. The development of Japanese feminism is, in essence, the dividend produced by post-war Japan's high-speed economy combined with a shortage of labor. At the time, Japanese companies' positions outnumbered the people looking for work, and they were willing to pay a high premium, even offering high salaries directly to new graduates.
That makes sense.
Only by understanding this core can you fully grasp why, upon entering the 2 lost decades or even more years, the tide of Japanese feminism receded so quickly. Because the broad economic environment changed. In the bubble era...
I mean, we say it, women are only allowed to be feminists when everything is good, right? When the economy is doing good, when men take care of everything, that's when feminists get to be feminists.
Japanese companies could hand out a vast quantity of sky-high offers. But with the bursting of the bubble, capital began entering a winter. Even companies that didn't go bankrupt had to save themselves through mass layoffs, let alone provide positions. Since positions were limited, Japanese companies began following the law of the jungle, that is, survival of the fittest.
Yep.
Whoever could produce more results on the limited salary stayed and was not laid off. Therefore, the Japanese women who were laid off were of two types. The first, women who enjoyed the dividend of the feminist movement, but were of
the lazy, did-nothing, DEI types. We know them.
Ordinary or insufficient ability. They were the first to be laid off. The second, women with professional ability but not sufficiently outstanding.
What did the Godfather say before he passed? Winter is coming. And that was 3 years ago. Winter is here.
They were usually highly capable, but in the layoff wave, Japanese men in the workforce were more desperate than women. They not only met targets and then some, but also voluntarily took on all sorts of physical labor. Men holding several jobs at once had a natural advantage. Over time, women who had once been one-sidedly excellent were also forcibly laid off by their companies. In addition, many people say the continuing decline in Japanese women's employment rate stems from Japanese chauvinism forcing women back home. This perception is very superficial. It has nothing to do with tradition. Its core essence is the Great Involution War.
It's the, we don't need you because you're kind of useless at your jobs. And most of your jobs we just made up so you can have something to do and not complain.
Taiwan, exhausting internal competition, triggered by economic downturn. A huge number of women were squeezed out of the competition, unable to find suitable work.
I see women thought that they can compete with men. They were sorely mistaken, right? Look at how men compete. Willing to put in more hours, willing to put in more labor, do more things just to get the exact same pay. That's true competition.
It's the strong devouring the weak. According to Japanese survey results, the proportion of men who, after marriage, wish for their wives to become housewives does not exceed 16% in any age group. And more than half choose to respect the wife's decision. In fact, many Japanese men do not want their wives to become housewives. Put simply, when the broad environment is bad and income falls, all that talk of tradition and isms is fake. Isn't it nicer for husband and wife to earn money together?
I think
Do you really think Japanese men can't do this math? Tradition often has little persuasive power in the face of a plate of food. After the women left the competition, the cake still wasn't enough to go around. So the portion of men who weren't so involuted also dropped out, and this is the famous Japanese lying flat. To sum up, Japan's cake shrank rapidly. Apart from a small portion of involution kings, all the rest dropped out of the competition. It is this change of era that is the true
Same thing here, right? A lot of men dropped out of the competition in a sense. They walked away.
reason for the total collapse of Japanese feminism. The portion of young men who lay flat had their morale shattered. With no resources and basically no motivation, they stopped pursuing women. And after radicalizing, Japanese feminism had another big problem. It abandoned its initial purpose of elevating women themselves and instead turned to firing on men, hoping men would see benefits of their own accord. So almost all its demands were built on male cooperation. I think you should respect women. I think you have to learn to empathize. I think a normal man has to better himself, has to learn to give gifts, has to learn to provide emotional value. And at this point, the answer from the lie flat crowd was no. No, I'm not a normal man. I'm just a useless wretch. Okay, done cursing me. Can I go back to lying down now?
That makes sense, all right? Men are beaten so badly to the ground. They're just like, yeah, I'm a fucker. Yeah, I'm a predator. Go on. All right, I'm done. I got it. I suck. I should die. I'm going back home.
With an opponent who had completely given up, who had lain flat even on his own life. Extreme Japanese feminism found that any rhetoric had already lost its effect. And what about the portion of men who won the involution? Surely they wouldn't lie flat too? They say, no, I'm also not a normal man. I involuted for so many years to finally get to sit on the rooftop of a building in Ginza, Tokyo, drinking coffee. You making demands of me, please recognize the situation. The one with the
yeah, I got all the leverage. I'm the prize, bitch.
right to make demands now is me. A 2016 questionnaire by the Meiji Yasuda Institute of Life and Wellness showed that men who wished to marry were only 38.7%, while women were 59%. Men in large numbers lay flat. Those who didn't were few. And women, after a round of involution in the workforce, found that in the marriage market, supply and demand had also inverted. In the end, Japanese women's marriage requirements went from the old three highs, high income, high education, good looks, to what everyone sees today. Just having a job and not committing domestic violence will do. In the anti-feminist tide of when the...
Which makes sense. It's just be a good person, right? Like, you don't need all these ridiculous things to have a good life together, right? Just don't be abusive and care for each other.
economic bubble burst, many women began to rehabilitate their own image, saying they had never joined the wave of female privilege. Why should they pay the price for some extremists? But unfortunately, when individuals
No, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. When the movement pushes so greatly, everybody gets affected, not just the extreme ones. Even the good ones get looked at with a
behavior rises to the social level, Japanese men habitually paste on Japanese women the label demanding, unlikable, unapproachable. When extreme feminism began trying to dominate public opinion, Japanese men no longer wanted to spend more time and money to distinguish which women were normal and which were extreme. It's like when cases of the elderly running touch and blame, scams become more and more numerous. People stop discerning whether the elderly person needs help. Everyone chooses not to help, since that's safest. Likewise, Japanese companies don't want to hire female employees.
Makes sense.
And Japanese men don't want to approach women or take responsibility for their own marriage. Because hiring a woman amounts to taking a risk. If that woman is an extreme feminist, the company or the individual will face irreparable disaster. So at this point, prudently preserving oneself became the most common way to solve the problem. Finally, after so many tumultuous years, whom did the Japanese feminist movement benefit? And whom did it harm? First, the ordinary women who did not take part in extreme feminism.
Definitely got
who
hurt.
may have been very independent economically and intellectually, but who, because of the feminist movement's overcorrection and the abuse of privilege, were forced to pay the price. Second, those who advocated female...
Yeah, just like in the US, there's a lot of good women out there that want to wait for marriage. Maybe not a lot, but there's women out there that are willing to wait or have low body counts. But because how all women are just throwing it out there, most men are not willing to wait anymore. And that sucks.
Privilege paid the due price for putting forward so many unreasonable demands. And more lamentably still, they, as a whole, ruined the image of Japanese women. For a certain period, they touted absurd demands, breeding in Japanese men a fear of women. Finally, Japanese men lost the desire to seek a partner, no longer wanted to take responsibility for marriage and love, which also gave rise to the low birth rate and the aging population crisis of today's Japan. The Japanese man...
We're actually not that far off. The only reason we're A-OK is, or somewhat A-OK, is because we have mass immigration.
And began to turn into a refined egoist, refusing to take on the responsibility he ought to take. The decline of Japanese feminism thus sounded an alarm bell for the worldwide feminist movement. The essential cause of today's tragedy is not that the feminist movement was wrong. Equality between men and women. Women holding up half the sky is a normal right women should fight for.
Sure.
However, the spread of the feminist movement lacked an objective theoretical method, leading many women to mistakenly regard female privilege as female rights, thereby disrupting the normal feminist movement. On the other hand, the consequences of capital intervening in ideological innovation are frightening. When capital seeks to gain traffic or promote consumption...
I mean, internet changed a lot. Capitalism and he said innovation. Technology is crazy nowadays. The rapid growth of technology.
It is very easy to flatten and fog up the feminist movement, deriving from it all sorts of distorted values and consumption views. Once the contradiction rises to the social level, the side effects of extreme feminism bite even more innocent women. Every social current of thought is, in essence, a reflection of the economy. Any ism must, in the end, give a material answer. Japanese men either decouple from the marriage market or lie flat, or else, after breaking free of the shackles of marriage, turn into refined egoists. Japanese women find that after noisily thrashing about with feminism for a good while, they neither won real productive power nor raised their employment competitiveness. The only use was leading everyone in cursing men.
Yeah.
But after so many years of cursing, the other side not only didn't change, but either lay flat or became the opposition, while they themselves...
Yeah, they thought they can keep badgering men to do better and keep doing more. But what did men do? We're only willing to do more if the value was there. And there's no value for us to do more. So we're just going to keep doing what we're doing.
Suffered concrete losses in the workplace and the marriage market. Why then would I still follow you? And so the once fervent Japanese feminism dissipated. Some evaluate Japanese feminism this way. In fact, the Japanese feminist movement was a success. It's just that the ones who laughed last were not women, but those hosts, male escorts, host boys, who understood the logic of feminism. The feminist tide broke the shackles of marriage and tradition.
It did.
And the host's gains also began to increase enormously. They quickly learned the essence of that logic. Make no promises. Take no responsibility. Invest all their time, energy, and money in themselves. Package themselves. Say a few sweet words, and then begin using all sorts of pretexts to extract value from women, arguably. In the end, the true winners of Japanese society. And this is exactly why.
Yeah, the fuckboys, right? He's not wrong, right? The men that have the good looks, the money, the status, yeah, they get to do whatever the hell they want, whenever they want. Those are the men that got the most benefit out of everything. It wasn't women and it wasn't men. It was just fuckboys, I guess.
It's worth looking at Japan as a mirror of what could come to happen in the West.
Yeah, women played themselves. They thought they can keep extracting from men endlessly without ever giving anything back or paying back anything. And men were men first. If there's no value to be had in doing something, we're just not gonna do it. Duh. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. I really appreciate that. And catch you guys next time. Ciao.